Hi, this is Liz, and welcome to my podcast, Spiritually Speaking with Liz. Today, I'm joined by an amazing guest. I've been so excited to have her on, and I'm joined by the beautiful Emma Griffin. So, Emma is a modern day witch who practices witchcraft to manifest the life of her dreams, and boy, has she. She has worked with thousands of people from all over the world, helping them connect to their authentic self, step into their power, overcome negative programming to access their own magic through her own most popular offering, the guidance medicine reading. Born in London and raised in Nottinghamshire, Emma has grown up in a magical household, and she now lives in Cornwall with her husband, mother of 2 mini adults, as she calls them, 6 dogs and a cat. And through Emma's life, she's gone through, we'll hear, major transformations, traumas and events which have brought her to today and who she is today. And she's just about to release her first book, Find Your Soul Path, Discover the Magical Life Within, and that's released on the 17th of October, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Hi,
So,
thank you
Emma,
for inviting me
welcome.
on this. It's really exciting.
Oh, it's so exciting. So I think with you, I'm such a fan and I
Oh,
love your Instagram page. I think if anybody, you must look at it anyway, just for the photography side of it. But if ever you were feeling stressed or uptight, honestly, go to Emma's page. Her pictures, it just takes you into nature if you can't be in nature. And her
thank you.
your photography is just out of this world, which we'll come to in a moment. So tell me about young Emma, because you sounded like you grew up in the Weasley household because your mum was a practicing witch and a well-known tarot reader, wasn't she?
Yeah,
And
that's
your dad was a platform medium.
yes. Later on in life, he did platform mediumship. He was more spiritual, so he taught me how to meditate, and he taught me about chakras. Where my mum has was always a witch. I don't know my mum any other way really, but she was an artist. She had an amazing imagination. So we had like these sort of make believe worlds that we could live in. And she taught me about fairies, magic, the dead, everything I know, basically.
That must
So,
have
yeah.
been such an amazing childhood because most people coming into their spiritual life, they haven't had
Mm,
the fortune of that, have they?
yeah.
They've come
Yeah.
from all classes a normal family. They've had the wake up call type of thing, where you've had that going.
Mine were a little bit different. Yeah, my
Yeah,
husband's parents were very normal, but my mum and dad never told me that, seeing or playing with the dead when you were a child was wrong, or you shouldn't do that. Or, my mum would do tarot readings every week. She'd always have clients over to her house doing readings. She'd be doing spells or rituals or seances, and yeah, it's quite normal for me.
how amazing! Now it must have
Yeah,
been
I'm
so,
very blessed.
and that's obviously of where you are now. This has just continued. So
Yeah.
from early childhood, then, so like taking friends home from school.
Yes. I used to think my mum especially was very weird. I did used to get picked on a little bit as well because my mum was a bit more different to other mums. Um, and my dad was quite a character as well. So they were quite well known in our sort of little town that we lived in. But yeah, they always found it very interesting, and they always wanted to do Ouija boards and things like that, which I wouldn't do with friends. But I obviously did do Ouija boards with my family, and that was just a normal family event. But my mum held space for that. And I thought everyone did it. So I was very sort of naive by that. It's really when I met my husband at 17, his parents were so normal. I was like, okay, okay, I've got a different type of family. So yeah, people do call me Molly Weasley actually.
Yeah.
So, so I think I'm relatable with that.
Yeah, well, and why not? But I think that's lovely. So, and have you been the same with your children? Have you sort of
Yes.
encouraged them from?
Didn't really encourage them. I just sort of carried on my lifestyle, so to speak. It was very, my life as a witch was very private until 2019. So my mum always told me to keep it quiet and don't tell people you're a witch and don't wear the pentagram and just keep it back, and just for protection, I think. But my kids always did like spell potions and did some moon rituals with me. They obviously have done seances. My youngest, which is my son, who's going to be 21 soon, he will do a ritual on Halloween. Where my daughter, who's 23, she was initiated by me last year, so she is fully into her witchcraft sort of area now. So that's really lovely to see.
Yeah, that is nice that they're embracing it and taking it forward, because you often found, don't you, in families, if you've been brought up one way, you tend to rebel against it, and then maybe come back to it later.
Yeah, and I often ask my son, because I know my daughter loves it and it helps her and her well-being and her way of living. But with my son, he's not embarrassed of it or anything like that. He often tells people, "Oh, my mum's a witch," and yeah, he's absolutely fine with it. So yeah, I'm very lucky.
It's lovely. And your husband's an artist, isn't he?
Yes, he's a graphic designer, so he's always known that I was a bit different. He's always supported me. He's very he's a Taurian, so he's very grounding. So yeah, he's been very supportive on this journey.
That's not, yeah, well, that's important. And you've had, honestly, your life could be a movie.
It could, yes.
When you look back. So you did a degree. What was your first degree was in?
My first degree was in fashion design. So I was a fashion designer. So I worked for lots of corporate brands. I did work for Hugo Boss, to Ted Baker, to Gap. And then when I had my daughter, I went into illustration so I could be at home with her. And I worked for like mother care and did like baby wear graphics. And then I've always moved the house around, and I find creating sacred spaces a big part of my practice. And then naturally, when I had a baby, lots of people were asking me to do their homes. So they went into interior design. And then I moved to Cornwall when my son was 1 and went back to university and did a fine art degree. And that's when I found out I was dyslexic. So that's why I used the camera. So the camera was my way of communicating in a easier way for me. And then I started a photography career for 11 years.
And so, that started with fashion, didn't it? You were with the big names.
Because I knew fashion, it was an easier sort of industry for me to step into. So yeah, so I did editorial photography, which I did love. I did really love doing that.
Which explains then why your Instagram, the photos tell a story. You don't really have to read the narrative if you don't want to, or your videos, it just takes you.
Yeah, well, I was a storyteller photographer and I used to create content for people. So I really do love that. And if I ever do have any time to myself, I'm either drawing or for doing photography. So it is definitely something I absolutely love.
So now you've transitioned to a full-time witch, haven't you?
It wasn't my plan. I never thought I could have a career like that, to be honest. None of this was
amazing. It's amazing. And so what was instrumental in you saying, right, okay, this can be my full-time job now? Job, we say.
Yeah. My father passed in 2019, and then my father passed in January, and then my mum found out in March that she had cancer. And that literally just tore my world apart, really. I mean, whenever you lose a parent, but it's just awful to have both of them go so quick together. And obviously my mum was a huge inspiration to me, and I nursed her to her end of her days as well. So I put on her pentagram and during that stage, and because I was trying to give her sort of respite and help her through her cancer treatments, I opened up a little studio so I could do healing. And obviously I had to pay the rent for that. So I had to open that to the public. So I was kind of splitting my sort of healing side of Emma to the photography side of Emma. And it was just, the photography side was so hard. It was really hard. It was more hustling, where this other side of me was just very easy, just flowed. And then when I lost my mum, and we had obviously lockdowns as well around that, my photography business was just it was too exhausting. It was too much for me. So I knew I had to make a decision. I did actually cry as well. I sat up in bed with my coffee, saying to my husband, I think I'm damaging my career. The more I talk about my witchy side, I was damaging my photography side. And all my clients said they didn't want to be associated with me, or
Oh,
they didn't.
really?
Yeah, yeah. I had lost a lot of people. The more it talked about death or witchcraft, they just stepped away.
That's
When I first started,
incredulous.
yeah. Yeah, well, you know who your friends are as you go through these
Yeah,
kind of journeys.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I then obviously because of lockdown, my one-to-one sessions had to go on Zoom, and that's when I went global and it became really easy. And then it just really exploded. And yeah, I've been fully booked ever since. So I had to pick, which direction. I had to either drop the editorial or drop the witchcraft, and I stuck with the witchcraft because that doesn't really feel like a business because it's
No.
just my way of life.
Yeah,
So
and
it's easy.
it's your passion, isn't it?
Yeah, it's me. So, I can still do the photography, but I don't miss the photo shoots. So that's
No,
what...
I can imagine.
Yeah, I don't miss that.
No, there must have been, even though you were doing your passion as a photographer, but
Mhm.
under the constraints of being told this is what we want, this is how you do it, then
Yeah,
it sort of stifles the
it
creative
does.
spirit, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's a stressful world. It's fun. You get to meet amazing people, but it's very muggly. And those people weren't really my kind of people.
No.
I often used to give models crystals or I would channel guidance, but they never knew what I was doing. They just thought, oh, she's got really good wisdom. She's got really good advice. Yeah.
I think that's fabulous then. So really you were not railroaded is the wrong word, but you were just gently nudged over, weren't
Nudged.
you?
Yeah, forced.
To into but I think this is the thing. People who are passionate about what they do and people who love what they do, then it's a success because they're just being
Yeah.
themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, and especially if it's scary. I mean, it did terrify me. It still does now. Sometimes if I post something on Instagram, I do have a lot of anxiety over that because I
Really?
wonder whether people are going to judge me. The same normal fears as everybody else has. Are you going to be judged? Are you going to be pulled up for that or anything like that? But I do really truly believe that when we step into a fear and we sort of move through that, the more terrifying it is, the more we expand as a soul. And that's why we're here. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to kind of jump into these sort of anxiety moments to be able to grow.
Totally, that's me with the
Yeah.
podcasts. I get
Yes.
anxiety before, meetings like you because I've followed
Bless
you for
you.
quite some time now. So seeing you, it's
Bless
like,
you.
but yes, you get that anxiety. But I think I see it, I embrace it now as a good thing because it shows
Yeah.
that I'm passionate about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
shows
And
that it means
society, yeah.
something to me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And society has trained us so much that when we feel the fear, just to step back and stop, where it's not the case. We have to move forward.
I totally agree with that. You
Mm.
just you have to embrace it, don't you?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
go through it
100%.
where a lot of people they get to the door, don't they? And the door's ajar, but their anxiety
Yeah.
won't let them step through.
Yeah. And it's such a shame.
Yeah, it is
It
because I
really
think
is.
a lot of great souls hold
Yeah.
themselves in that anxiety state, in
Yeah.
that anxious state.
Yeah.
When if you just step through it, it's not comfortable, is it?
Try.
But we
It's not
step through it.
comfortable.
No.
Yeah, but then you make your own evidence instead of what you think that is going to happen. You actually see the evidence as it's actually really good, and you've grown so much as a person. You've probably gained, in your business, or you've probably gained friends or whatever, that fear is for, and it's always in your best interest.
Yeah, totally agree. It really is. So
Yeah.
can we go? So the readings that you do, so these are unique to you. So so when you've been doing your sessions over Zoom, what does that entail?
Well, I work with mainly women all over the world. I think I've done, I can't remember how many, I think, well, between 40 and 50,000 people since
Wow,
2019. Yes,
that is a lot of
that's a
people.
lot of people.
Wow.
Some people come just for a one-off. Some people have been with me for, well, since I've started and have a yearly like birthday session. Some people see me every 3 months, 6 months. It's entirely up to them. Before the session, I always ask somebody to write and journal about what they're in need of, what's the guidance for, where they stuck, or why they're coming to me. And then I will meditate an hour before and prepare myself here. And then when the person logs on and they ask me questions, that's sort of like my trigger to be able to channel. So I work with what I call the 12 Council, and they're like beings of light, and they're in the library of where your soul contracts are. That's how they show me it. So when a client asks me a question, but it's not just a client, it's also on the TV. If an actor says a question, I will start channeling as well. So the question is my, the question is my trigger.
Whoa, hold back there.
Yes, my daughter's always asking me questions. But yeah, so basically we'll just tell me the whole hour session. I will just relay everything that I'm hearing and seeing from the council. Within that, sometimes I do get shown people's spirit guides. They will stand behind them sometimes, or spirit animals, whatever they choose to show me. They'll also bring in a loved one as well in the spirit world. So occasionally I'll have sort of like normal mediumship. And then I also now as well see little parts of past lives with people as well, sometimes within the session. So yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. It's a lot, yes, because obviously it's quite draining for me, because you're constantly channeling and relaying and trying to work out what I'm being shown, basically. And normally the council will tell me things that are going on inside that person's head, which will then link into their notes beforehand. So it's all blends in well. And they normally give me sort of like homework, which is why I call it the medicine part of it, for them to carry on to doing their home time. So that could be a spell or a ritual or some journaling, or, you know, how to help their well-being. So yeah, I can have a client that's really upbeat and excited, and then I can have a client who's very, you know, dealing with grief. So you're constantly on a roller coaster of emotions, and they're normally always crying, and I'm an empath, so I feel all of this as well. So it is quite physical for me mentally. It's probably the most difficult job I've had. But I do really love it. It is an honor. It's a pleasure to do.
You must have to limit yourself then, do you, to so many a day, so many a week type thing.
Yeah, and you do it twice, 3 times a week, because it's just too much. Too much.
Well, and it's a lot of time as well, isn't it? So you've got the preparation, the hour
before, the hour of the session, hour after. So I have to close down, depending if somebody is in a real bad way, I might need a couple of hours to clear that from me.
Oh, really? So, yeah. So on a little tangent here, what could you give, because I'm an empath also, as many people are, there's more and more people seem to be realizing, don't they? What tips could you give for people for I don't like the word protection, because I always think it brings in fear when there's something to be scared of, but for a broad spectrum, what tips could you give us that we can help to release other people's energy if we've held on to it?
Well, because you're an empath, obviously being around lots of people, like in a supermarket or out, you know, shopping, can feel quite, sometimes it just feels like anxiety. It feels overwhelming sometimes. So I would place a little pebble crystal of black tourmaline in your left cup of your bra. That's wonderful, because that will protect you. I also I haven't got it on my desk here, but I also have a clear quartz point crystal and a smoky quartz. So you could place on your left hand, your receiving hand, the clear quartz with the point facing into your body, and then the smoky quartz in your other hand with the point facing out of your body, and just sit and breathe and meditate with that, and that will rebalance you. I do a lot of smoke cleansing, either with resin or with herbs that I burn. But I always, after every guidance medicine reading, I will have an Epsom salt bath, and that will literally just take anything else away that's sort of left around. But then you can also place your left hand on your heart and call your power back and release any energy that's not yours. you can command that. So that's a very simple way of doing it as well.
Yeah, that's lovely. I think crystals are well underrated, aren't they? I think I have a shop which sells crystals as well,
Oh,
and
beautiful.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's I hear different reactions. Like you get some people like, oh God, here we go. Where
Yeah.
some people, really feel the
Yeah.
energy of the crystals, and
Yeah.
they are. And they are. And I'm
Yeah.
always telling people to put crystals in the brow. And honestly, some people
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
look at you like grown an extra head, don't they? The worst thing I
They
think
really
is
do help. They really
it
do
does.
help.
You've just got to remember when you get undressed on the night. I
Yes.
always frighten
Yes.
myself to
All
death in the
out.
bathroom. All these rocks dropping.
Yeah.
But yeah, and salt. But I think water is important, isn't it? I like to be by the sea. I find that
Yeah.
very.
Yeah, or
Um,
even the shower, the
mm,
shower cleansing your crown and just telling yourself that you're cleansing away any sort of energy that you've been carrying. So
mhm.
yeah, or even barefoot on the grass, that's wonderful as well. Just ground yourself.
I've recently discovered qigong. Never done a yoga teacher, but I've
Oh,
never really done
wow.
qigong. So I like doing that barefoot in the garden on a
Yeah.
morning,
Yeah.
particularly this
Oh,
time of year. Obviously, it's warm, but
yeah.
it's
Well, it's
very.
raining here. It's not very nice in Cornwall at the moment.
It's not so bad. It has been raining, but it's looking dry at the moment, which is quite
Oh,
pleasant
no.
for a change.
Nice.
So, can I rewind you back to a not so
Mhm.
good time in your 30s?
Mhm.
So, you were diagnosed, first of all, it was cervical cancer, wasn't it?
Yeah, cervical cancer, then breast cancer, and then thyroid cancer.
During that time, I mean, I can't imagine I've been with somebody close to me receiving that diagnosis, but it's
Mhm.
still not the person having it.
Yeah.
The fear must be intense. And you were told at one point, weren't you, that you probably wouldn't make it beyond 40?
Yeah, that's right. With the thyroid. Yeah, my
Yeah.
obviously my children were young, but I
Yeah.
think because my children were young, that was my trigger to really fight. And I mean, it could be controversial, but this is only my, you know, personal view. But I do believe that we carry cancer around a chakra point that is blocked.
Mm-hmm.
Our body's been holding trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously with my worst tumor was in my throat, and I never spoke my truth. I always put others first and just pleased people. And obviously I did keep a lot of trauma inside and I didn't release it because I was a young mum and I was busy being a mum, as life does. We do that as us women. We do put our kids and our partners first. But looking back now, it was really a blessing to have the cancer because it did change my world completely. Because I wouldn't take that sort of diagnosis. I knew that I would get past. I mean, I'm 47, so I would get past and I would be in remission. So I put little sort of markers that I would reach, and I still do that now because I'm used to it. But it's always with my daughter, so because she's my oldest, I always put that I would see her going to learn to drive or going to school prom, and now it's bigger milestones. And I always reach them,
Mm-hmm.
and I think when I was told I had this cancer and I realized the treatment in front of me, that's when I started my photography business, as you do. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "Oh, I'll start a business."
Nothing
And
else to do.
nobody knew. Yeah, nobody knew that I was having treatment. I just carried
Yeah.
on. So yeah.
So from a magical spiritual side,
Mhm.
so obviously you had the sort of channel into using your talents with the photography. So,
Mhm.
but from the magic side, from the spiritual side, what really helped you?
Rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Just being, in the present moment. The present moment and meditation, I really believe saved my life. Because otherwise I would have been, you'd run along with your mind space of all the fears and everything. But I'm very connected to my body and how my body feels. And I've had to be.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have to, that's how I navigate. If I could be poorly again, I can check, how I am. And I try to eliminate stress, and I'm my husband calls me the queen positive. I am positive about everything, but I don't bypass it. I do feel the feels as well, because it's a lot of bypassing of, just be happy all the time, which is impossible, isn't it? You
Yes.
can't.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm very big on self-care, and I did learn to put myself first, and that was hard because my children were so young. But I had to. I had to put my wellness first. So then I became, the better wife, the better mum, the better friend and sister. So it was in my interest to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And before that, then, were you? I know you said that your mum taught you meditation, and your dad.
Yeah, my dad taught me
Dad taught you
meditation.
meditation.
Yeah,
So were you? Would you say that you were present before
not as
the
fully,
diagnosis?
no. Because my parents, although they were very magical and amazing, they were very stressful as well. My dad was like a failed gangster. So my yeah, from like 18 till I was 40, it was very stressful. So I became like their parent. So I had a lot to deal with as a young mum, basically. So I'd only meditate when I was doing magic, because I thought that's what you had to do. But obviously I learned that meditation is part of my daily life. I have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an important. It should be taught. I say
Yeah.
this every
Should be
podcast.
taught at schools.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And we're so programmed to be outside of our body. We need to get back into our body, because then I don't think we would have any anxiety or depression, or it would help so much, and it's free. So
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, we
I
have
think
all of
that's the
this
thing.
around us.
People seem to be like here, don't they? They're sort
Yeah.
of like constantly. It's like
Yeah.
the donkey with the carrot. They're
Yeah.
constantly striving for
Yeah, for the
some.
next thing, the next thing, the next thing. They're
Yeah,
never, I mean, I don't have any goals. I often get asked, what's your 5-year goal? I don't have goals because I've never known how long my life's going to be. So I don't believe in that. I only have little things to move forward that I'd like to see or like to witness. I don't have goals that I want to achieve. I think that's better.
well, that's really interesting because that's always like with manifesting, and you're a great teacher of manifesting, but
Yeah.
obviously you're not doing the 5-year plan, the 10-year
No,
plan, and,
no.
and things can change anyway.
Yeah.
We obviously
Yeah.
there's free will, but destiny's destiny. You might not be like with you.
Yeah.
You might have thought as the fashion designer, this is it.
Yeah, I
I've
thought that
nailed
was
it.
what I was going to be like,
Yeah, I'm
But
going
then
to do
there's
this
also
storytelling.
women do change. We're constantly transforming and rebirthing and going through different stages of our life. How could we possibly know, once we've rebirthed, what that woman would like to do?
Yeah.
We can't. We have to get there. So I'd rather, I mean, I don't look in the past. I kind of have some kind of dreams for the future, but they're not set in stone. I'm fully in the present. And that's why I think that's more healthy, to be in that present moment.
Well, it's working for you,
It's
isn't it? It's
helped
worked for
me.
you, and yeah,
Yes.
and is working for you, and you're a great advocate of it. Then,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
quite it's it made me, when I'd read that with you, it really made me think. And then hearing you say it,
Yeah.
because we are always, well, what are you? What, but rather than now.
Yeah. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
And that's better. And that's why, I've never had, well, I have had panic attacks and, sad times, but when you're in the present moment and you can actually work on how you're feeling and whether all those thoughts are actually your thoughts in the first place, and you can write it, you can burn it, you can swear, you can sing, you can get it out of your body and just keep what's yours. The present moment is the only place that we can do that.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I ask you about your guides. So how did and when did they first come to you?
The council or my spirit
Yes,
guide?
the council. Well, all
Council.
of, yeah. I've got them all.
um, well, obviously, I've always worked with the dead. I've always talked, and I say this a lot. I find that although speaking to the dead is amazing, I don't think it's very valuable. To me, it's very chitter chatter. It's like, have we turned the light off? Or or they'll tell me something about history or the past, or it's just chitter chatter as though you would speak to someone who's alive. It's nice, but it's not guidance. It's not. And obviously I've had different spirit guides, come and go and stuff as well, which I have a lovely spirit guide. But the council appeared when my mum told me she had cancer, and I was in a very busy time, and obviously I was grieving over my dad. Where I lived at the time, there was a cornfield, and I just felt so overwhelmed. I thought I just need to get out of the house, because obviously you're dealing with your children upset about their nanny, or my husband was very close to my mum as well. So I just wanted to be on my own. So I was in this cornfield, and I just decided just to sit in it so no one could see me. So this corn was all around me, and I just screamed and cried and just shouted, and I don't know what to do, whether I should, because I was doing photography and healing at the same time. And then they just appeared, and they just told me, this is how I've always been able to channel, and this is how I work, and they gave me the name Guidance Medicine Reading. They told me how it would work. They even told me it would be on video and overseas, and at that time I hadn't even looked at Zoom, and just gave it to me. And because I've always trusted what I see and receive, I had to fully trust. So when I walked back to the home, I told my husband, he was like, okay, yeah. He didn't judge me or anything, because obviously I come up with lots of things like this. And I said, I'm just going to try it and then just see what happens. And that's how it happened. They just appeared.
So do you physically see, or is it in your, like a cinema in your head type thing?
Yeah, for the council, I see them in my mind's eye. So they sort of come up sort of above my crown, and then they'll put in front of me little movies about that person. Very similar to working with the dead, but obviously I do see the dead as well. And then obviously I do meditations where it's like an astral travel type of meditation. I do that once a week, where it's for longer, and then I can go and see different dimensions and see them and get a sort of more of a one-to-one for me, really, more of guidance. So yeah, so I can see it like that as well.
Wow, that's incredible. And do you hear as well? What other?
Yes, I feel, hear, I do get touched, pretty much all the senses, because then I was never told to switch those off, so it's very easy for me. So yeah, as I have tried to not work with a dead, because obviously when you're at school, or at least when you're about 18, when people were mocking me, I thought, this isn't right, this isn't normal. So you try and sort of put them in a box and step away from it. But then you end up going to someone's house, and then there'd be a spirit stood there, or I can't stop what I do. This part of me. So I've just learned to accept it. I have asked my husband if I'm schizophrenic, and he says no. So I think I'm okay. Yeah, it's just trust. I have a lot of trust.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things, isn't it? Trust.
Yeah. And I think because of what I've gone through in my life, it's given me that trust, because it's my evidence. So even if someone mocked me now, I know that I'm not losing it. I do see all these things, I do hear them, because I've helped so many people over the world with it too. So
it shows their fear more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I always
and I understand it. I totally understand why people would find that really weird, but it's a shame.
Yeah, it is
a shame.
It is a shame, because they miss out. And I can remember, it must have been about 14 years ago, something like that. A friend of ours is a member of Mensa, and they have a Mensa magazine apparently, and he brought it round to show me, and it was a witch who was a member of Mensa. And she'd written about what a spell is to a brain person, if you know what I mean. So
muggle,
to a muggle. And and saying that it's all about the intention. And it was, I wish I could remember, it was really well written, and really well, from, obviously, because she wasn't going to let her side down. She straddled the worlds of the you know, and of the Muggle, and it was, yeah, it was a really good,
Wow.
yeah, a really good read.
Yeah.
So as Emma now, who's totally in her power, who's, well, you are, aren't you now? You
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm on my authentic self. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely living your authentic self, standing in her own power, the queen of all she
Mm.
surveys. What would you say now to that 18-year-old who felt uncomfortable and because she was being mocked?
To love your uniqueness. We all have our own uniqueness, and we should cherish that. And to honor your gifts, honor your flaws, and stand in your power and speak your truth.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so easy, isn't it, to step back.
Mm.
And I used to try defend myself to quite a point, and then I used to think,
Yeah.
I'm just exhausted here, and still nobody's
Exhausted.
believing me anyway. So
Yeah.
so I sort of learned to
Yeah.
not to put myself down, but just, I think I don't have to defend myself. I believe
Exactly.
in what I believe in. If you
Yeah.
don't, then that's your choice too.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so what would you say are your, so you've told me meditation, but now on a day-to-day basis, what are your non-negotiable self-care? I always like to ask people what they do for themselves. So
Yeah,
what do you do on
a
a daily
slow
basis?
morning. I love a slow morning. I mean, I'm blessed I can do because I work from home, and I'm obsessed with my little chihuahua behind me, and he sleeps with me, my husband. So I love that first morning coffee in bed, and just thinking about my day and just planning my day, just having that coffee with Walter as Steve gets ready. Then I will meditate and journal, and I will do an oracle reading. I will also cleanse myself. I also put incense on every morning, and I will also call out to spirit and to my ancestors and my loved ones, and sort of bring them forward as well. That's my non-negotiable. And then obviously closing down in the evening as well. But yeah, just quite simple, really. And
Well,
also clothing. Obviously, fashion still is a big thing for me, and I do love clothes. And I find that's what I'm thinking about when I'm having that coffee of how I want to feel for that day. It's the clothes that will bring that energy for me. So that's important for me as well. That's a non-negotiable.
I like that.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But yeah, I really
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, because so many people just wear, I mean, I do like black, I'm not saying black's bad, but some people just follow the crowd, don't they? Or just wear what they think they should do or to fit in or not be seen. But if you look at it as another layer to your aura, to your energy, it will help you. We all love that new dress, don't we? We feel amazing.
Mhm.
If you do that every day, you felt like that with your clothes, it would help us. It helps with your energy.
Yeah, I totally get that. Part of our shop, we've got a clothing boutique, and
Oh, lovely.
we go to India a lot, and we have tailors
Oh,
in India,
beautiful.
and they make all our clothing. So like this is
That's lovely.
repurposed saris. So we've
Oh,
all got all
wow.
different styles of dresses. Yeah, and
Oh,
it's
that's
the color.
beautiful. Yeah.
Color's important. And I
Yeah.
think I've had this
Yeah.
passion with India for 20 odd years. We go. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I love about India. It's the smiles, it's the smells of
Yeah.
the incenses and the food, and
That
it's the
is.
color
Mm.
where you
Yeah.
come
And the
back in.
fabrics,
Yes.
nice
Oh,
fabrics.
they're just beautiful. Where here
Mm.
everything seems to be beige or black.
Yeah. Although I'm sat here in beige, but it's
Oops.
linen, so it's nice.
Shall I edit that bit out?
No, it's fine. That's fine. I like the beige as well. So that's
Yeah, but
absolutely fine.
sometimes
Yeah.
beige is good, and it depends on the
Yeah.
style of the beige as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I love that.
Oh, it's been so lovely having you on. I've really enjoyed it. So
It's a
can I
pleasure.
ask you one more thing?
Mhm.
Could you give our listeners 3 tips of maybe connecting with their intuition or being comfortable with themselves, whatever feels right to you?
Well, an easy thing that everyone can do, even if you're a busy mum, is we all have that cup of tea moment during the day. So instead of going through your phone or distracting yourself from Facebook or TikTok or whatever, light a white candle in front of you, sit down with a cup of tea, because the white candle will symbolize to your subconscious that you're about to do something sacred. So it will instantly slow down our nervous system. And then hold that cup of tea and really feel into how are you feeling. Place your left hand on your heart and still yourself, and just have a little check-in. Where am I holding stress? What do I want to do for today? What do I want to let go of that's not mine right now? While you're drinking that little cup of tea. And afterwards, then you can carry on. But that literally will put you into the present moment. Also tap in, when you can do a butterfly hug and you tap either side of your shoulders, that will instantly put your mind back into your body. That will help you as well. And yeah, meditation again.
Always comes back to that, doesn't it?
It's always, yeah. Even lots of people say, I don't have time. Well, we all have time. We all have time throughout the day.
Yeah,
2 minutes is better than nothing. Yeah.
I totally get that. I mean, it's hard with social media because, particularly like you, because it is a massive part of your work.
It is, yeah. But I'm not on social media very much, and I look at my social media as it's fun. I don't follow people that bring me down or make me feel awful or anything like that. It's always something I can study or uplift me, or it's exciting or funny. I like it. But obviously I'm used to that environment because of the photography. But when people say, well, I don't have time to stop or do anything, we all do. We all have time.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, I'm still not letting you go. Tell us about your book.
My first book's out. It was called Find Your Soul Path, and it's out on the 17th of October. But you can pre-order now at any major bookstore. It's it is a witchy self-help book, and it helps you find your authentic self and you step onto your soul path. And there is also exercises and easy techniques to follow. And there is also rituals that you can do throughout the Sabbaths of the Wheel of the Year. And there's also a beautiful grief ritual and a birthday ritual in there as well. Talks to you about how to make smudge sticks, journaling, meditation. There is a motherhood section in there as well. It is full of stuff. So, and it's very pretty. I've done all the illustrations and the photography for it as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that coming out very, very soon.
I bet, yeah. And that's so lovely, bringing everything together then within that book. So for the people that can't get to see you or maybe can't afford to get to see you, then
everything's in that. Yeah, everything's all in that book. So it's a good start. It's a really good, it is really pretty.
Amazing. I shall look forward to receiving it.
Thank you.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining me.
You're a pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'll put all Emma's details in the show notes. You can contact her on Instagram. She is Emma Griffin Witch. Her website is emmagriffinwitch.co.uk. And I'll put links to the book as well below, so you can pre-order that too. Emma, thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking the time out. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I've loved it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And guys, I'll be back again soon. Bye.